Well, boys, training camp's at the end of the month. All right, it's coming. We're going to be down there. So if you're going down there, we will see you down there. We're going to go a couple of days and check it out, which will be a lot of fun when they allow fans in there. But what are you guys looking forward to seeing? If you had you can give me 3 things, 1 thing, 2 things, 5 things. What are some things you're most interested in watching in this year's training camp?
Boone, you want to start? Or you want me to?
Do you want me to go first? I have one. We can kind of go back and forth here.
Yeah. Go one.
One that I have, and I think everyone in Jeff, I think this is like to your point of bringing players in at this position. I want to see this defensive line. I want to see the edge room. I want to see Marcus Davenport better be ready to go. Like whatever injury he had, better be ready to go because I want to see him compete with Hutch. I want to see Matthew Betts compete. I want to see Josh Pascal out there competing, Levi O. Like I want to see these guys out there compete because I want to know where this whole room's at. That's like I think my number one thing. I cannot wait to see that, and not even just see, but just hear the conversations coming out of training camp from this defensive line group because I think that's like we just talked up this secondary. We know what the secondary is going to be like. Those battles are going to be insane to see in camp. The secondary battles. I'm just very interested and excited to see what this defensive line turns into. Like I think that's the make or break for this defense. So that's where my very first mind. That's where it goes to.
What do you think, Klotz?
Yeah, I think for me, it's definitely got to be Jameson Williams and how he's refined his route running in his hands, how he's been able to take an off season, identify his flaws because now he's at a legit sample size where I think in big moments, especially he's came through for the Detroit Lions. But you can see that he's still very raw. So I think just part of wide receiver when you're that fast is allowing the game to slow down for you, allowing the ball to hit your hands. Okay, cool. Now let's look forward and run because if Jameson Williams catches the ball, there's no one catching him. But you can see he's still worried about running after the catch when he hasn't caught the ball yet. So just all the little things. I just want to see how much more polished Jameson Williams is because we talk about this Detroit Lions and how important he is to taking the next level. If he does that, I think you can be seeing things like that in training camp.
Yeah, I would agree with the JMO thing. It's a good one to go with because there's a lot of question marks in the defensive line. Those are 2 great ones. I would probably say if I had to pick, it would be the secondary. But it's not just the secondary; it's the battles that they're going to have one-on-one. You mentioned with JMO. That's something that I'm very intrigued with because you have a top 5 offense and one of the best passing games against the secondary. It's a good starting point for practice, especially for a new secondary. So I'm interested to see how those guys gel on the field and specifically how Terran Arnold looks. And even Amik Robertson, another guy I'm very interested to see. Carlton Davis. Like there's a lot of guys that I'll be watching. Even Dennis Rakestraw. I'm curious how much they kind of let him go or if they have him to more of a, I don't know. It's in a month, but, working him slowly like they have been. I don't know what to expect. But I would say the secondary is one of my things I'm most looking forward to seeing is how they gel on the field immediately.
I like that. Am I up again, boys?
Yeah.
You guys ready?
We'll go to the people after everyone says something.
Yeah, I want to stay on defense though. I want to see. I guess we've already talked about every part of this defense, but Jack Campbell, like what is it? What does this linebacking room look like with Jack Campbell and now Alex Anzalone and Derek Barnes? Where does Derek Barnes' role fill in? If Jack Campbell's taking a step, like Mina Kimes when she was on the heavyweights, she said that the Jack Campbell film that she saw last year that she said, I'm pretty sure she said she just didn't like it. Like it didn't look as good as she thought. And that was something that she said she was interested to see is all of these linebackers in the NFL. It's one of the hardest positions to figure out because, you're getting put in such bad positions, especially with the way the offenses are in the NFL today with the backs that you have to cover and the receivers and like everything you have to be able to tackle. Like the talent in the NFL is just at a different level to where some of these linebackers is coming into the league, they struggle a little bit. So like she was even saying she's interested to see the jump that Jack makes from OTAs and mini camps. It sounds like Jack has made some sort of jump. I'm just interested to see how big of a jump it is and kind of if that turns into him and Jack Campbell or Jack Campbell and Alex Anzalone, just a 1-2, just absolute one of the best duos linebacking cores in the NFL this year. That's what I'm interested to see because I hope that's what it turns into. Klotz, I know you're high on Anzo, and we're pretty high on Jack Campbell. So I think if they both work out, that's a scary linebacking room.
Yeah, and Jeff, hit it real quick. Just my Wi-Fi is catching up with it. Go for it real quick.
Yeah, I would say for me another thing to watch, and I know this. I'll just say it, and I'm not saying this to fit a narrative, but I want to see Hendon Hooker. I want to see how much he's progressed. He looked rough in OTAs and in minicamp. Don't worry, it's not for any narrative purposes. Again, is this guy going to be your backup? That's really what I'm watching. It's going to be interesting to see how he do. Is Nate Sudfeld going to be your backup? Hopefully not. So I just want to see how he's progressed. It's just something I'm intrigued by, given what he looked like and what was being reported out of minicamp and OTAs. So I guess say
backup quarterback is important in the NFL. So I'm with you on
it's
that.
really, I'm just curious to see like his development, not just because again, if you want to trade this guy, it's got to be good. You know, what are you going to trade? You can't have it both ways. You can't say, oh, he stinks, but we're going to get a 3rd round pick for him. Like that's just not how that works. So I would say his development, how he's progressed.
Yeah, you went with one backup, Hefe. I'll go with another one that I've criticized a lot, and that's Levi O, because I think Levi O is a guy that people are talking and hyping up in OTAs. But I'm just interested to see, like, if I'm proven wrong with Levi O, great. But I think there's a spotlight on him more than anything because I think he would be considered Brad's – because I don't think anything outside of, like, the 3rd, 4th round, like, you're not banking on anything. I think he would be Brad's biggest miss to date. So I think there's a lot kind of riding on him as far as what he can produce this year because, I mean, you're asking him to be your 3rd string defensive tackle. And a 2nd round pick, if he can't do that, then it's time to go.
That is an interesting one too, Klotzy, because there's like – I don't want to say it's mixed reports, but – no, it's not mixed reports. It's just I think it's just beat writers and people being pretty honest. Was that he had a good spring, but a lot of people also say that that's like Levi O's a candidate for a cut candidate because if he ends up not being like if he comes into training camp and when you do get pads on and if Levi O doesn't end up doing what he was doing in mini camp and what they were like, oh, he did take a step and he's became something, then it's like that's someone that could get cut because you've taken your time and your toll on him. So like I do think that like it's such an interest that could be at the top of the list, honestly, because like he had such a good spring and everyone talked about him. But then at the same time, as soon as it's all over, everyone starts writing these articles and talking about how he could be a cut candidate. I think the Doc came on our show a couple weeks ago and mentioned that like keep an eye out for him. Like that's a big question mark with Levi O is he could be a cut candidate because he needs to translate what he did to the spring into the fall.
I see people in the chat arguing about Yannick Ngakwe, bringing him in. He's a free agent.
I mean, take a look at him, but I mean, he's essentially what James Houston is. He's going to get after the quarterback, but he's been consistently productive. He really hasn't went to a team and fell on his face. I don't recall what he did last year, but I doubt he was an absolute liability.
Like 4 sacks.
Yeah, I mean, the Lions could use it. It depends on what his price is. Usually, he's looking for a 1-year contract from like $8 to $10 million. So if they bring him in, like I'm not going to be opposed to it, but he's not going to be a guy that you're like, okay, you have the bookend outside of Hutch because that dude's a lot like James Houston where he cannot stop a run to save his life. Like you're putting John Kaminsky on the edge if you need to stop a run before him.
Yeah, that's the biggest thing with Yannick is he is a very good pass rusher and was, and I don't know if he's still, but at this point, I don't think he's old, but he's had some great years in the NFL. But he is so bad against the run. Like he is essentially another James Houston, which not a guy you can play on every down. So I like him. I just don't think he's the fix.
That's
not the fix. So that's my take on it.
That's another name for training camp, James Houston.
Yeah, that's
keep an eye on. And he didn't play all year last year, and then he played towards the end. He just played in the playoffs, I think, and he didn't really do much. So I think that's a name. Keep an eye on him.
Well, real quick too, shout out J-Rod. Thank you for the $2. Let's get Wi-Fi fixed before season start. We will make sure my man is not having any issues. So appreciate that, J-Rod. People are weighing in with what they want to see. Tom says, I want to see what receiver replaces Reynolds. Is it Cleve, DPJ, or Green? Okay, that's a good one.
I think that's the order.
J-Mo. I think it'll be J-Mo and then those guys what Klotzy said, that exact order. Khalif will fall into place at 3, DPJ, Green. And who am I missing? There's another wide receiver in there that's been
Isaiah Williams, Traquan Smith.
I think he might follow us on Crunch Time on Instagram. He likes all of our stuff.
Drawing a blank. Fountain.
Yes.
We've called Fountain.
Fountain.
Yeah, does he follow?
I don't know if he likes like everything we post. I don't know if he follows us.
Fountain. Drop a follow, man.
But he for sure, like every time I go on there, he's liking our posts, so I followed him back.
Playing games.
Yeah,
games.
But he's a name that remember he made that massive catch that got posted, and everyone's like, "Who is this?" And it was Fountain, and he ended up making plays. So maybe him. Keep an eye out for him.
We got to post some Fountain highlights. It's just
we should.
We'll go get some. Tom says secondary competition and kicker battle. He also said that those are great. All three things he suggested are really good. Dad with Tourette's says, I want to see backup offensive lineman growth. The shoe is going to drop right. Decker, Glasgow, Ragnow, and they're always dinged up, and injury is coming.
I like that. You know what? In my notes here, my notepad, I literally had offense, backup offensive line ? Colby Sorsdale. Like I think that's an interesting training camp.
Yeah.
That's an interesting one. One of those guys. Like there's going to be. It's the same thing with the receiver. Like there's going to be injuries.
Mm-hmm.
Who's going to step up?
For the next one, LFG says looking forward to 1, JMO's improvement, 2, Davenport's status. Davenport's a good one. Just single him out. Don't even say it, just single him out.
Yeah.
3, try hard Campbell's progress. I'll add 1, a Campbell speech. Are we getting what kind of speech are we getting from Dan Campbell? That's something I'm looking forward to at training camp. He's gonna have a lot of those.
Did you guys wish and I hate this. I wish that we were on Hard Knocks every year. Like I love some of the best moments of my life as a Lions fan. Like this is outside of winning all last year. But do you remember when Hard Knocks was on? I remember making popcorn every single night and having HBO up ready up in our living room. And I had a bucket of popcorn, something good to drink. And it was just as soon as it hit whatever it was, 9 o'clock or 10 o'clock, refresh HBO instantly, press play and roll. Like I was just I was so locked in, and it was I could not wait every single week for that to come out. And that was the hype of that was so good.